I think people are asking the wrong question. It's not so much, is Bitcoin going to bottom or is it going to go up tomorrow? Where's it going to go? I think we need to look at some key levels to kind of get, I think, excited again about this cryptocurrency market. I know, it's crap. But we need to ask the question, are market conditions improving to allow us to get exposure? And the answer to that is no. Spoiler alert. We need to wait. We need to wait, be patient. And this video is all about levels of interest. And that doesn't mean just vanish and walk away. That just means learn, understand, get better at understanding value and overvalue. Because realistically, Bitcoin isn't about catching the bottom. It's about catching where fair value is and hopefully make a return on that investment a couple of years down the line, which is what has happened many times over in these cycles. Patience still pays in investing, by the way. It doesn't just vanish. It's not dead yet. So this is what we're going to walk through. We're going to keep it super simple, calm and relaxed. So if you enjoy this sort of stuff, leave a like, subscribe and comment. Where do you think Bitcoin's going to go? Now, before we zoom in, and that's the thing, genuinely, people just zoom in and look too close. You need to zoom out a little bit. Now, obviously, you can look at exchanges like Blowfin here. There's a link below to this if you're interested. There's no KYC. It's open to the UK for futures trading. Risk is on your side there, obviously. But the fonts are getting bigger, the bolder, the selling volume is all over the place. There's a lot of horrible red candles, right? And I think a lot of people are very much, where really is looking ugly right now, obviously. And obviously when liquidity tightens in the crypto market, it gets a bit of a problem and confidence drops. Capital rotates out and people just leave. That is very apparent with the views, the comments, the amount of likes you get on videos now, the engagement on X, Reddit as well. It's just evaporated, right? But when it obviously does improve, we get dips to buy. The problem is we're not bouncing. So this is why we've got to wait. We've fallen from roughly the 86,000 level down to 71 without any bounce. For me, I would expect where we are right now, this is the previous all-time high where we bought and went over in terms of the halving. For the first time ever, we broke new all-time high before the halving of 1 year, which is kind of historic in a way. And we've not really bounced off that yet, which is also, as I say, concerning. But in between all that, I just see people on X, I see people on YouTube just absolutely trying to rage bait people and just, it's absolutely laughable in some of the content that I see. And yeah, we're looking at Ethereum at nearly $2,000. Solana is below 100 now. XRP is at $1.40. It's absolutely mental. But is it opportunity? Maybe for some, maybe for others, maybe not. Spoiler alert. I've had my levels on my chart for a very long time. You know this. If you've been following along, you'll know where I will start nibbling. I'm not nibbling yet because I alluded to before, there's no market structure. There's no dips in a situation where we're getting some sort of life, which is just basically life support right now. So we just got to wait and see. I don't want to get absolute bottoms. I just want to get the fair value levels, which I think will be a lot lower, just saying. Now, with that as the side piece, this is where we are right now. Now, where this zero is, I am waiting to see, and I'm going to move it along here. Where are we going to stop? Because we will probably bounce. Realistically, we're going to bounce and probably go back up and continue this downtrend horrific pattern and probably find an area lower, probably. The way I look at it, I want to buy Bitcoin at certain levels to get the maximum amount of units because obviously there's taxation involved here and there's other bits and pieces. Obviously, if you're in the UK, you'll know this. It's horrible. But the reality is we probably are going to go lower. We are just, I think, at the start. And even though there's people out there going, oh, we're in a 5-year cycle now. Probably not, no. You know, we're going to go to like $150 million in a matter of 3 weeks because some people just can't get their head out the headlines. It's annoying. So we are more than likely, history tells us this, the slow acceptance is obvious. We will get a low, horrible, ugly consolidation at some point. We haven't got there yet, obviously. And that might well become Q3 and Q4 of this year. Oh, ugly, I know. But that's just how it kind of is. And I don't see that changing at any point now. So these are my genuinely obvious levels. And that's the thing. Are we going to get down to the 786 level, which is a meaty correction, I will say, or just in and around the 618 levels? Maybe that one's probably more feasible, but never say never with Bitcoin. And I know we've had like an 86% correction in my first cycle of like probably being in here. We had a 74% correction in 2021, give or take, or 2022, sorry. But you get the idea. It will probably get less and less. But we're still talking probably a 50 or 60% correction, even with institutional levels here and people buying it up. But we do need to talk about the other side of the market a little bit, because the thing that has disappointed everyone, and myself included, and I've got levels on here as well. And if you are interested in learning all this sort of stuff and being a part of understanding the basics of like capital rotation, videos from me, Discord, check out Patreon. There's a link below. I will be looking at adding a few more courses as well, so you can get them as a member anyways, or you can buy them if you're not a member. They're about 10 quid, nothing much at all. So this is the framework. You can see the big old circles, that's telling us the past. But where we are right now, we are still at these levels. We need this to nuke, but it's unlikely. Even if this nukes, it might well be because of one thing. The main thing, which is currently governing the market, is stable currency dominance, where this is actually just hurtling to the upside, basically telling us that money is getting rotated quite aggressively out of this market. Again, as I say, it's a problem. So therefore, there's no real reason to buy just yet, because money hasn't gone into the market. It's just going out. So yeah, I understand people's point will be, oh, but you can buy really low. Not really. You can get better options later down the line, because we will bounce. We will have little points of like weirdness. So we have to be very, very careful. That being said, I am still doing the dollar cost average challenge on Patreon at £60 a week every single Sunday. And as we get lower, it will get more aggressive. If you want to follow along with that, I will talk about it on this channel every now and again. But as you can imagine, I'm doing less content on the channel because there's no real need to, because not a lot's happening. It kind of makes sense. So if you want more of me, as I say, Patreon is where I am. However, when we talk about this, there's three things I look for. I'm obviously not watching headlines. I'm not bothered. I don't care. I don't really look at the news these days at the minute. There's not a lot really I want to kind of get excited about. The thing is, we do need to talk about altcoins. Will altcoins die? That's the problem I have. And I don't know, personally. I think their funding models are wrong. I think their emissions are horrendous. The inflation models to make revenue in certain assets are not looking good. Obviously, Vitalik has sold his Ethereum recently as well. That doesn't help, does it? So all that kind of stuff really matters, which is probably why we're seeing charts like this on the screen where it's looking honking. Now, Ethereum.D is dropping as well. Problem, which is probably why everything's just going to shit, literally, quite obviously. So yeah, we need to be very, very careful of that. However, I do think that most people are reacting to short-term bias, influencer narratives in a way, and the rage bait that we keep seeing, people panicking. Now, this is been on my screen for a long time. I did a video about this and talking about rough sort of areas of where things can end and entry and all that kind of good stuff, right? We're obviously going into the red. Obviously, it's bearish as fuck. But the reality is here, people miss the top completely. And I can say I got out in a way where I was lucky. I sold 30% of my bags between June and October. Didn't get perfect exits. I got between $110,000 and $118,000 Bitcoin, but I did buy a lot lower, obviously. So that was good. But could I have done better? Yeah. Was I expecting higher? Of course I was, yeah. I was expecting us to go at least $150,000, but it just didn't happen, didn't materialize. We had the realist, well, I wouldn't say realistically, we had a very, very small pop to the top, if you all remember. And I talked about this on Patreon yesterday. When we did this little move to the top here, it wasn't enough, was it? It was like, oh. And then I went on holiday that week and I sold the rest of my stuff. Thought, fuck this, I'm out for now. And I'm looking to rebuy back low. That's the whole point. I'm still holding Bitcoin. I'm still happy to hold the amount of units I've got. But ultimately, I want to buy more lower to get more units to then carry on building on the journey, which is what you should be all doing. But people are genuinely worried right now. And that's a good thing. I like that sort of thing. People panicking. And I've been around here for a long time now and I've seen it all before and people hate me for it. But being bearish isn't a bad thing, realistically. We'll put a little bear there. Let's go for it. So let's talk about this. Where am I going to be most comfortable buying? Well, I'll be honest with you. I want to skip this bit. I do. I don't want to do. Will I be pissed off if we go to $69,000 and then fly to the moon? Probably not, but it would be nice to get more holdings anyways. I think the 618 level is probably going to be where I will do my first nibble, which would be a pretty lofty correction from the top. If we're talking from the top, we're talking at least a 50% correction, give or take 54. In terms of my average exit area, which is in and around this kind of price zone between 140 and 115, if you put them all together, it's a 49% correction and an extra, well, 49% more for your book, realistically. I get a lot of units for that. I'm happy with that. But will people be happy? That's the thing. What we need to look for realistically in the long term and over the next couple of months and obviously over maybe the year is greed from the downside. As in, I wanted to go, you all heard the vibes of 8K in the last cycle when we went down to 15K. We're going to go lower. Realistically, the numbers will get harder. If you're going to go down to 60,000, people will want 30. If we go down to 30,000, people want 15. That's a lot to drop off, right? Every single time. So for me, I think the 618 level will be the first real area where I will be having a decent nibble with my stable currencies. As I say, though, I still will be doing dollar cost average challenge, getting more aggressive as we get lower, and build another pot from scratch. You all seen that. It is down at the minute, obviously, but it may well become an amazing tool to showcase how to do it in real time. And that has started from zero with all my own money too. But in terms of the bigger picture a little bit here, obviously the market's changed a little bit, obviously. Gold and silver's gone rampant. The US stocks have been okay, but Bitcoin has obviously dropped down to number 13. I am heavy in the UK and the European market in my stock market portfolio, which is doing brilliant. But this is like a 2.5 year portfolio. It's a stocks and shares ISA. I can only put £20,000 per year in it. And that's where I'm at. I've actually only invested £52,000. This is obviously wrong because it's obviously been calculated in a different way. But in terms of what is in my ISA, it's done brilliant. And that's a really good gain considering that is the FTSE 100 doing well and the European market doing very well. The US market is somewhat collapsing a little bit, right? That's the problem. People are panicking. Some tech stocks are very, very volatile. And gold and silver has done very well, but I wouldn't touch that with a barge pole right now. It's far too overvalued. No way. And the value probably next will be, hopefully, fingers crossed, the end of this year, back to crypto, back to Bitcoin. And that could be amazing because Bitcoin had its run. It's now in its bear market. Silver and gold now having their run. The S&P 500, the NASDAQ have had their runs too. Things will eventually cool off. That's the problem. Where do you go next? Well, my book will be going right in that Bitcoin situation again. And I know the hardest part of being an investor is getting it right. Obviously, you don't want to buy tops and you want to try and get as close to the bottom as possible. It's hard. The idea is sticking with it. The idea is to keep your capital and to hopefully buy as low as you possibly can and sell a little bit higher. Bitcoin, historically, as you all know, will reward the patient. The people who've been in for such a long time, have rode the waves and bought more at the lows and, sold a little bit at the top, are all doing well. We're a bit autistic like that, aren't we? You don't need to predict. You don't need to be early. You don't need to be emotional about it. You just need to stay with it. And that's a thing. I've said it before for years, and you all know this. If you stay in the crypto market, you will be rewarded if you do the right thing. The problem is people go to altcoins. The problem is they go to all these kind of weird and wonderful stuff, promising the riches off a nice website, a nice roadmap, but it doesn't really work out. The value is in scarcity and the model that works, computation power of Bitcoin. And realistically, that's how I've survived the cycle. I was able to be in Bitcoin. Luckily, I saw the light earlier and I sold what altcoins I did have at the time in 2024. Luckily. Could have been a lot worse for me if I wasn't careful. But hey, if you enjoy this sort of stuff, subscribe, leave a like and a comment and all that kind of good stuff, and let's see what happens to this video. Will we get views? Is anyone actually there?